Change is around us every day. So, how do you manage the changes that happen in mining year round? Welcome to another episode of Change Itself, hosted by Gus Miner and Eric Demers. This show is brought to you by Sophie and Technica Mining and is produced by Crownsman Partners. Now, here are your hosts, Gus and Eric.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. If you're coming back again, thank you for being a repeat follower. We're looking forward to bringing you episode number 4 of Change Itself. So you're here today with Eric Demers and myself, Gus Miner. We've got a really interesting guest that we're going to be introducing shortly, Jason Bubba from NORCAT. And today's theme is going to be, discussing the evolution of solutions. We talk a lot about how things are not necessarily designed to be set in stone forever. Had lots of conversations. Eric, welcome back, episode 4.
Right on. Excited. This is, starting to get comfortable. Yourself?
Yeah, same. I mean, really pumped that, the content we're putting out is being consumed and we've got a, pretty good group of followers that are starting to join in and tune in. So I guess what we're talking about is showing value somewhere. So pretty excited about that.
Right on. I hope we're, other people can learn from what we're talking about and from what we're learning. So I certainly do when I rewatch them. So
that's been the funnest part, is just rewatching our own episode and realizing that, hey, there's a lot of cool stuff we're talking about that, ties into a lot of conversations we have on a weekly basis, but we're actually learning from the stuff that we're putting out ourselves. So it's been fascinating.
Right on. Well, I'd like to welcome our guest, the newly minted Chief Operating Officer, COO, I guess, from NORCAT, Jason Bubba. Nice to see you, Jason.
Hi, Eric. Nice to see you as well. Hi, Gus.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me to discuss change in the evolution of solution. Changes all around us these days, whether it's technology change or this pandemic we're going through that has forced a lot of change on people. So plenty to talk about in terms of change and innovation.
Yeah, it's awesome. Want to kick us off, Gus? Any thoughts, any ideas?
I mean, one of the things, since we last connected, one of the things that's been coming up a lot across my way has been, a lot of conversations about, just because it's so today or was so for the past 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be what's so tomorrow or the years beyond. And it's been fascinating to see what people are bringing up as far as solutions or even what they're challenging. What has come across your plates lately of things that are being challenged as especially like in the workplace, as far as, hey, I know we've always done it this way. However, today brings new complexity and new challenges. So we got to take our solutions that we kind of minted and reforge them so that we can keep the momentum moving forward. What's come across your way?
Well, there really are so many things. Technology is changing so fast, and that current generation that's entering the workforce has really grown up with technology. This is the first generation that's literally grown up with technology since they were essentially infants and toddlers. So kind of like you alluded, when we're looking at the evolution of solutions, sometimes we don't even know that we need a solution for something, but some innovative person or an innovative company comes along and says, hey, we have been doing this for 5, 10, 15 years this way, but do we still need to do it this way? Is there a better way to accomplish the same thing or accomplish more, accomplish things even better? So, if we're looking in terms of evolution in business, there's so many things around battery electric, around AI, artificial intelligence, around green technology, and all of these things really can be viewed in different lenses across various industries, and how these various solutions might apply to different industries. But not just that, but how can these new innovative solutions apply across industries so that people can learn from each other? We don't have to keep on reinventing the wheel. We can make incremental adjustments to apply these things for solutions in various industries.
you seeing any type of technologies? Think you talked about AI, and that one, seems to be a hot topic these days, and different things that I'm reading and looking at, and I guess hearing, because I'm paying attention to it. But there's going to be some evolution there. We went from, you talk about kids growing up with the technology. My kids know Google and they talk to Google. They got a question. Sometimes they don't even ask me. It's, hey, Google. So anything there, anything you're seeing that's going from one industry, maybe could be applied to another industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if we look at something that's a hot topic these days in terms of electric vehicles, but these electric vehicles have a ton of AI built into them. They have a ton of autonomous technology built into them, and of course, companies like Tesla blazing the way and are leaders in that area. But now you're seeing pretty much all the auto manufacturers coming out with some incredible products that those price points coming down so that it's more affordable to the average person, and the technology getting better. So when we look at something like that, and then let's apply that to, say, the mining industry, which myself and you, Eric, are in, that's what we do day in and day out. So how do the mines then apply that technology in the workplace? Well, we're seeing today new mines who are opening up, and their intent is that their entire fleets will be battery electric. A lot of them will also be teleremote or autonomous vehicles. So, whether you're driving down the road going to Toronto on the 401 in your Tesla, or you're in the workplace operating a huge piece of equipment, but not necessarily in the driver's seat. Perhaps there's nobody in the driver's seat and they're at a computer terminal controlling it, or part of the duties of that machine are actually performed on its own utilizing AI. It's a good example of how a consumer technology, or technology utilized in a consumer sense, can be very, very useful in the mining industry. I actually think that's a little bit flipped because, as you know, Eric, in the mining industry, we've been using autonomous equipment and teleremote for a long time, and you almost see it sort of migrating to the consumer side. But people don't necessarily always see that. So
I feel like it's there in the mining, and there's pockets where it's like it's actually came and gone and sort of coming back, which is interesting to me. Like, I got an interesting LinkedIn video from a gentleman that was operating teleremote scoop somewhere in Zimbabwe, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like, I don't see very much of that happening in Sudbury. I've been hearing like rumblings that we're starting to come back and things are starting to happen, but like the technology was there probably 20 years ago at some of the Inco mines that were around at the time with some of the teleremote projects, and you're just starting to hear them come back. I know we were working with another company here in town. We're working at try to the teleremote drift to optimize time between shifts, and that project just never came to fruition. But yeah, we're starting to hear more and more of it, but I'm surprised there's not more. The other piece that's interesting and really, like, if we take the autonomous vehicles and the Tesla example, is they're collecting data, like steadily collecting data. They got vehicles out there, and that's all they're doing. And again, it could be that I just don't know, but I'm not seeing, like, we have tons and tons of pieces of equipment, driving ramps, driving all over the mines. And are we collecting that data to start building some of these autonomous processes? Do we know the drifts? Are we taking LiDARs? Like, do we understand the main intersections, interactions with the equipment? Like, I think there's an opportunity there to be, sought out. And I don't know, Jason, if you're hearing of anything like that. You guys are working with some pretty high-tech technology companies there. Anything coming down the pipe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you have to sort of look at those early adopters versus those who are going to sit back and wait a little bit until the technology is proven. So, as we all know, some of this teleremote or autonomous technology has been in the mining industry. And like you said, some companies have implemented and then pulled back. Again, let's compare that to consumer versus industry, where, when Tesla first launched the first Model S, and, you had those early adopters buy into that right away. Well, that was a small group. It was a niche group. You had to have the money because they certainly aren't inexpensive. And B, you had to take a bit of a leap of faith. That infrastructure wasn't there. Charging stations weren't across the country. Were these batteries going to be reliable? Could you get to your destination without, going dead on the side of the road and waiting for a traditional vehicle to pick you up and drive you to where you go? So, we can also apply that again to industry, where some of those early adopters, perhaps some of them, became a little bit turned off. There's also has to be that shift in thinking in the workplace. So if I'm buying a electric vehicle, that's my personal choice. I'm choosing to be an early adopter, or these days, it's still early adoption because the market isn't saturated, that's for sure. But would we be having that same conversation 10 years from now? Probably not. Probably not. So in the mining industry, perhaps some of these companies had tried this 15, 20 years ago. Very, very new technology back then. And perhaps they didn't see all of the benefits that they would if they had perhaps implemented, similar technology, but today, at today's level, today's complexities, today's advancements. But, again, sorry, to the point I was making, I'm choosing to buy an electric vehicle. That's me. In the workplace, now you have a workforce. So it's not just about, hey, we're going to do this as a company. Now we have to accomplish these things with the workforce in mind. How do we make that shift? There will, as these things are new, there's always that challenge of the workforce thinking, well, you're going to replace me with a robot, or you'll replace me with a piece of equipment that can work on its own. I never like to look at it in terms of a technology is replacing a person, but that technology is changing the way work is done. There'll still be people, and I don't know, about 50 years from now, Elon Musk is working on some pretty cool robots and such right now. But, today, technology can't do creative thinking like people can. They can't solve certain complex problems in the workplace like people can. Can they solve mathematical problems? Much better than people, absolutely. So if we're looking at implementing these types of things in whether it's mining or industrial, whatever it may be, manufacturing, it's not a viewpoint of it's going to replace someone's job, but perhaps make that job easier, or help that person do their job better, or create higher value jobs where people don't have to be in harm's way when they're performing their job in the workplace. So there certainly is a difference when we're talking about technology change from a consumer standpoint, where we're making the choice, versus in industry, where we have to make sure that our employees, at the end of the day, our employees are a success. They're the ones that make our company a success, and we have to make sure that implementation of technology in the workplace is a benefit to them, and that those individuals want to see this happen. And that boils down to communication, right? Communicating with the workforce on, how and why these things will happen, and how it'll be a benefit to the workforce, not a detriment.
Well, and that's where the evolution comes in, right? Because some of the workforce will have to explain why, and some of the workforce, they're going to be like, because they're going to say like it's the opposite, where we don't need to know why, it's a requirement, right? So when you look at, when we talk about the generation now that's been born with technology in their hands from infancy, they've had remotes in their hands their whole life. You know what I mean? That's how they know how to operate anything, is that there's some type of a remote, right? Whereas like if I think about how I grew up, there was a lever for this, a lever for that. I would put my brakes on with this, like, like it was a very manual process to do anything, whether it was go-karting, whether it was, it didn't matter. Everything was lever based. So now that it's all digital and everything is over remote, this is the workforce that's being injected. So when you look at the evolution of the solution, is that the solution has to match the talent that's coming in. They have no clue how to operate a machine with all these levers. They've never been exposed to them, right? So it's kind of like a very opportunistic timing when you think about it, that this is the technology that's being introduced, but it's also that's the skill set that's coming in to use these things. Whereas the previous skill set that may think that they're being replaced, they're actually in some sense being replaced as far as generational transitions are happening, but we're enhancing the workforce of the future is what we're doing with these things. And we had the same conversation when it comes to using cell phones and tablets in the field. Same thing. Like, this is just how people communicate today. And if you've never known communication through a Post-it note, you don't even know where to go look for a Post-it note to purchase, much less use one and pass it on, right? So it is interesting. I know, and one of the things that I noticed just on the weekend, so I was I recently started boating and things like that, and then I was at a lake and there was a fishing derby, and I watched boats being launched and back and forth, and it was just so hectic. And then this guy comes in all by himself, right? So he's all by himself with his boat, his trailer, and his truck. How do you launch all this, and how do you do all this by yourself? Well, he had a mapping, I guess, on his remote for his little Minn Kota trolling motor. So he launched his boat, set the mapping out. The boat took off on its own, went around the bay. He went and parked his vehicle, did everything else, put his trailer away, came back. The boat came right back to the dock. He got on, and then off he went. I was like, and I was sitting there at the beach going, did that just really happen? Was that just real life? Like, did the boat really just take off, do a like a take off, it did a figure eight, came right back, and that was it. It's quite astonishing. So when you look at those technologies and how they're going to cross pollinate everything from social activities to in the workplace to all over. It's quite amazing.
And when you mention he jumps out and he's got an app and his boat is first of all, I want a boat like that. I got to figure that out. but these little things we call a phone. I don't even know why they call them a phone these days. That's about the last thing you do is put it to your ear. But I guess the definition has stood the test of time. But when you look at something like that, the simple cell phone these days, how many industries has that upended and turned on its head? So, nobody runs around with a camera anymore. Nobody buys a camera. Nobody prints photos. We all remember the days we had photo albums. Well, this is your photo album. Nobody prints them anymore. So you have cameras. You have, photographic paper. Those places we actually take it to and get your 12 photos developed. They don't exist anymore. That doesn't exist.
You can do that?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think there's one store in the city you can still do that at downtown. What about the movie rental places around the world? I know this didn't do that all to it, but kids these days, when we were younger, TVs got bigger and bigger and bigger. We always wanted the bigger TVs. Kids are happy watching a movie on their cell phone these days. Kids consume. I say kids. I'm in my 40s, so I'm those who grow up with it. They're consuming media different than they ever have before. So you even look at traditional media outlets who aren't seeing the ratings, aren't seeing the viewership, whether it's entertainment or news, because they're consuming things in a different way because of the phone. If we look back, even as short as, just a few years back, phones were very discouraged in the workplace. And now we have technology on the phones that are helping people do their jobs better, or helping them, eliminate paper or move data around the workplace faster. So now we're seeing that as a benefit.
Every worker deserves to go home safely at the end of the day. Book a demo with Sophie to discover how their groundbreaking EHS management software empowers workers to proactively avoid hazards, and how organizations like yours can cultivate a stronger work culture. Visit them at sophie.com. Technica Mining is a premier underground mining and construction contractor. They stand for delivering quality project work on time and on budget through innovative thinking. Their excellent safety record, experienced workforce, and large equipment fleet will guarantee the timely completion of all your project needs. Trusted by the world's leading mining companies, Technica Mining has over 20 years of experience in mine construction, development, and production. Contact Technica Mining to take your next mining project to the next level. Visit them at technicamining.com. Change Itself is produced by Crownsman, the voice of industry. Check out more, including The Crownsman Show, Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, and Crownsman Egg at crownsman.com.
I've had an interesting one this morning, maybe less, or not this morning, but this week, less on the technology side and more in like the workplace and like the evolution of like a company or work itself and how we're doing it. So I was getting ready to prepare an annual review for an employee, and I'm going through it and I'm reviewing some of the older ones that have been done. And I really start to question, like, what are we evaluating against? And so I start, going down a deep dive, and I end up in a rabbit hole, and I find this person's role description. And I start reading the role description. It was from 2013. So that's, it's 8 years old. It's quite old. I'm going to say irrelevant. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, this is what we're evaluating this person's performance against, something that was put out in 2013. And that at that point, like the solutions we had was like, we had training that was in a filing cabinet in an office. And then a copy of that went to site and it accompanied the person. The person held that document and brought it with them to the next site they went to. And like, that was the person's role. We're certainly not doing that anymore. We've, added HR softwares. We've got, health and safety softwares in the workplace. The workers have a tablet with all that information on it. They just carry it. So it's really interesting to see how it's evolved. And then some of it was like also like the design of the work, where I'm going back and going like, like that was interesting information. And that was like insightful. If I gone back to that, are we following that model? Have things changed? Like, you guys seeing any of that?
Yeah, well, it's a very good point in terms of especially those employees who have perhaps been with a company for 5, 10, 15 years, right? Do we go back from an HR perspective and actually look at that initial contract or that, initial role profile for that individual? And like you said, Eric, by now, it's probably changed in some way or another. And are we reflecting that, A, in their day-to-day duties and expectations, and B, in their evaluations, like you said? So I think it's, HR certainly has a role in reviewing, employees' roles within the organization and making sure that they are up to date. And again, that goes for, brand new employees or employees that have been around for a long time. And, I think that an important thing when looking at change in the workplace, a lot of it is a mindset. Whether you're young or old, it really doesn't matter. How open are you to the change? And I'll give you a good example of this. Our manager of our simulation training department, who trains new and existing workers utilizing the state-of-the-art mining simulation technology, virtual reality technology, augmented reality technology, all of the latest things that we build. He's in his later 60s, and he has, 40 years of experience in industry. And this individual craves change. He craves new innovation. And the reason why he does is because he wants the latest tools. He's not scared that innovation will replace him. He just wants the latest tools so that he can do a better job doing his job. And in that is training workers to be more effective at what they do and ultimately safer at what they do. And utilizing technology, we can really do a lot around, especially the safety component, high hazard situations that we can't even do in real life. We couldn't have done that in the past. We can't do it now in real life because they're high hazard situations. We don't want to put those individuals in, but utilizing technology, we can. So, and at the same time, perhaps you have a younger employee in who doesn't maybe they're a little bit more adverse to change. And so you have more challenges. So, you know, we keep on talking about the younger generation who's grown up with it in their hands, but, you know, don't dismiss that generation who's on the brink of retirement, because to me, it's a mindset. And if you're open for change for the benefit of all, it really doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah. And I've always been a true believer that as long as you've communicated the definition of success, because people want to be successful every day.
Yeah.
Right. And then I talked about this a few times, but as long as you've updated the definition of success, so whether it's from a role description, an updated contract, or whatever the case may be, and they know what they're being measured against, and they understand that this is now the definition of success, the change is usually absorbed pretty well, because they're like, okay, cool, I'm going to crush it with these new tools to accomplish this new version of success. But if you keep the version of success the same as it was 5 years ago, and you introduce all these new things, well, how do I accomplish that level of success with all this disruption? And it doesn't make sense to me anymore. Right. So I think that part, you know, to you, both of you guys' point is, as we evolve and as we bring things forward and we reestablish the new target, and we know that there's work to be done to create the next level of work, right? Because any change requires work. But if we say, hey, you know, we understand we're about to disrupt you, however, this is what we see as being successful. Well, now they're moving towards that target, and they're not concerned anymore about achieving the old target. Right. And I think that's disruptive, right?
I throw a question to you guys. So, and as we're talking about this really coming to me, but are we conscious of some of this change sometimes, or is it just like happening to us and around us, and like we don't even recognize that it's happening? What do you guys see there, experiencing there?
I think the answer to that is yes and yes. So sometimes the technology evolves around us, that it's slow but steady enough that you can see the changes within a year or 2, 3 years. Again, how do some of these industries get so disruptive that have been around for so long, and you don't mind because you have the convenience of the new technology, that's okay if that, you know, whatever else was disrupted and goes away because we have a better way. And I think people let those types of things happen around us. But, you know, there are things that happen perhaps closer to home or closer to your personal life that are more of an immediate change. Again, if your role in the job you do every day is all of a sudden going to change because something new is being implemented, then that's something that, you know, you're less willing to sit back and let it happen and evolve versus, wow, I need to do something different day to day in my job to be successful. Am I going to? And so I'm going to jump back here for a second. When we talk about changes coming to the organization or to that worker's role, what we don't want to do is say change is coming to you. This is how your job is going to change. What we want to do is include that employee in that process. We want to include that employee so that we can say, hey, listen, we're looking at doing this. How can we do it well? How do we implement this with you know, keeping your role, your duties in mind, so that when it comes to implementation and you are using this technology in the field, how is that going to make your job more effective? How is it going to, you know, and when people have that, you know, input, when they're part of a process, then you've more of a chance you're going to get that buy-in. You're going to have less resistant versus this is what we're going to do. It's brand new. You have to get on board because this is your new job. That, you know, even for someone who's welcoming change, it's not a good way to implement it. And, you know, you get your guard up pretty quick versus, hey, I'm part of this process. I'm part of making things better. I'm part of innovation. Now that makes me feel like I have something to aim for. And when it's a success, I was part of that success and I feel good about that.
You said something really interesting there, Jason, where you talked about if it's like convenient, I'm okay with it. I don't even need, like, I don't have a choice in the matter, but if it's convenient, I'm going to choose to like disregard it, or not disregard it, but like embrace it and not make it a fuss. But there are some things there that like you said, it's like almost like embracive. It's like imposed upon you. Like, whoa, no thanks. I wonder what's there, what's in that difference. Gus, you got any thoughts?
Well, there's also, I mean, it's interesting when we start thinking about the imposition versus the open door approach. Like, Jason touched on it about making sure everybody's involved, making sure we've touched base with the right stakeholders, right, the workforce. But there's also a lot to be said with the leadership as well, is that a lot of times in different organizations, leadership has done a lot of work and put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that the processes and systems and everything is defined well. And not only do we have the definition of success for the workforce, but we also know how to measure it because we have the systems in place to do it. And then somebody comes in and says, okay, I know you've been working on this for the past 5 years, however, or maybe 10 years or beyond. And then, but here's a new way of doing things, and it'll kind of shake it up a little bit. But man, we'll be able to track the success much better. That creates a lot of defense as well. It's like, hold on, like I put a lot of energy into putting this in place, and then now you're shaking it all up, right? So that's why when we evolve on certain solutions, it's also taken in consideration and having empathy on the people that have really done a lot of work on setting that groundwork in the first place, right?
Charles said something in our last conversation, the last episode, and it was like around perspective. When we're talking about transformation and change, and it was like for the person building the thing, it seems to be slow, but for other people, it just happens. Like, I wonder if it's kind of that same like perspective thing. Like if it's open, like, and again, back to what Jason was saying in the beginning, I was like, if I'm an early adopter, yes, I'm wanting it and I'm embracing it. There's a point where that technology is just there and it's proven, and we just jump on board and we like
Right.
go with it. Like, I wonder if it's like that perspective. Like, perspective is we don't even notice it because we're actually getting on board sometimes later in that innovation cycle where it's just there, right there. It's proven smooth. It just works.
I think that it has to also do in terms of your level of choice or perception of choice. So if we take it back to the consumer market, when Netflix first launched and these other streaming services, you had a choice, right? You can either buy into these streaming services, or perhaps you still go down to the local movie rental place and get what you want. And then, it started becoming more and more convenient. Well, geez, more and more people are just watching these movies at home. And I don't want to be charged for returning remember guys, a VHS tape, you had to rewind before you run. So,
please be kind, rewind.
Rewind it. So you had choices in that, and the day-to-day impact to you and your family was pretty minimal. But here we are, as time progresses, and a lot of that industry has evolved so much that that's just gone away, and everybody just, rents from home, and you get instant access to whatever you want. Versus, it's more sensitive in the workplace, where now that choice is affecting me personally, but because it's also affecting me personally in my work, it's also affecting my family, right? If this is impacting my work, this is impacting my paycheck, what options do I have? I either go along with it, whether I like it or not, and continue my employment and being able to make a living for my family, to pay for my kids to go to school or my mortgage, whatever it is. It's expensive to live these days. Or I don't go along with it and risk all of those things and essentially put my family at risk. So I think that it's a more sensitive topic in terms of your level of choice and how it impacts you on a day-to-day basis, because whatever is impacting you at the workplace, it really is impacting your family. And, rightfully so, people get pretty defensive pretty quick if we think that our livelihood may or may not be challenged by a new technology that's being implemented in the field. So I do see that sensitivity from, a choice from a consumer technology adaptation versus something in the workplace that's going to actually
in the workplace where we're coming in with some change that actually has no bearing on the person's like opportunity to earn a livelihood. Like maybe it's the way we do incident investigation. Like we're going through a change, we've changed the thresholds and the parameters, and that sometimes seems to there's some uncertainty there. Can we really do that? Should we do that? No, I'm not comfortable doing that. And it doesn't affect anybody's livelihood, yet we're like sometimes so hesitant to like try one of these things on, or like question why it's done that way in the first place. So like I find it interesting because like, yeah, there are some points where if we're talking about like technology, like automated vehicles, that kind of stuff, I could see that kind of piece in the conversation, but sometimes it's just in how we do something, and it's actually how we do something that doesn't affect most people, but there's still a huge reluctance there.
And there'll always be that difference between early adopters who are, hey, bring it. Give me the latest that you have. Let me test it first, and let me test it, break it, and give you some advice on how to improve on it. And then there's going to be those folks who are, yeah, okay, well, prove it works well, and then I'm happy to use it once it's proven. And then there's going to be those folks who are always going to be a little bit of a pushback on, hey, listen, we've done this like this for a long time. It works. Why are you trying to fix something in their mind that's not broken? So you'll always kind of have those three categories to work within and challenge. And we just have to challenge ourselves and challenge our employees to rise to the occasion. And again, communication is the key in all of this. Let's talk it out. There aren't many things that we can't solve if we just sat down and had that conversation.
How maybe you can shed us some light as well as far as things that are going on in NORCAT. Like NORCAT has moved along quite a bit in the past 20 years. How has that evolution been taking place with yourselves?
And that's a great question. So, we have our own operating mine, and we train new miners to enter the mining industry, and they are being trained with practical skills, right? We still need them in that underground environment. These are things you can't do on the surface above ground, and you can't accomplish all with technology. So we still train people every single day in the operating mine, in that traditional equipment, to get the fundamental skills. But what we also do is implement a ton of technology in the learning process. We use augmented reality in terms of bringing the virtual world to the real world and having workers interact with that. We also use virtual reality to train workers on pre-operational checks and other situations on equipment. So if I'm training a new worker how to do a pre-operational check in the field, I'm probably standing in front of a piece of equipment that's in fairly good working order, because it should be in fairly good working order. So I can train someone to do a pre-op check in the field, and they can do it in front of me. The challenge there is, can they really catch those fault conditions, which is difficult to train in the field because, again, that equipment should be in good working order. So in virtual reality, we put them in front of that exact same piece of equipment. And once they're competent in performing a pre-operational check on that piece of equipment in good working order, now we have over 200 fault conditions that we can trigger for that worker, get them back in the virtual reality world and say, okay, let's do that pre-op check again. And let's see if you find any things that are wrong with this piece of equipment this time. And the technology has advanced so far that it looks like the real piece of equipment in a real operating mine, and those workers are immersed in that environment. And because these are new workers, we all know that the mining environment can be a little bit intimidating for a new worker. So, all of a sudden they're in a dark, wet, loud place that's, surrounded by rock with heavy equipment moving around. And, there can be a sense of nervousness for these new workers who are doing something they've never experienced before. As these new workers, we're doing a research project right now on this, the effectiveness of learning technology in the workplace. As these new workers are working through these digital exercises and getting what we call that virtual experiential training, the early feedback that we're already getting for them is that it helps them stay calm. There's no threat around them. They're not going to be harmed by the equipment. They're not going to injure themselves. They're not going to injure a coworker by doing something wrong with the equipment. So there's an instant sense of calm with what they're doing in the training. Because they're calmer, because they're not nervous, now they're just paying attention to the learnings that's going on. They can just laser focus on what's being taught. So quite often with companies, they'll ask me, how fast can you get someone trained? Can you get them trained faster? We don't like measuring on speed. We want to measure so that that person is competent and proficient in their tasks. But if you do want to look at it in terms of time, well, the learning technology is always there. When you're looking at equipment in the field, it's not always there. It's being used most of the time, and it's a big challenge to get that equipment to be used dedicated to training. So learning technology is always available 24/7, 7 days a week, and it allows you to train those workers on situations that may take them 2, 3, 4 years to actually experience in the field. Well, you may have forgot that by the time you get to experience it in the field, but with the learning technology, we can build some of that muscle memory so that when an incident does happen in the field, they have the skills, the knowledge, the memory to be able to respond to that. So once they graduate from the virtual reality training, then they go into the mining equipment simulator training, where they're actually at the physical controls. And you guys have seen this at our place. They're the actual physical controls, but a screen around them in a virtual mining environment. So now we want to get those individuals to be competent, but also to a certain level of proficiency in this. And then we train them again, brake failures, engine fires, all of these things that they can encounter in the workplace. These are real hazards that do occur and impossible to train otherwise if we weren't using learning technology. So those workers who then migrate to the workplace, this goes to when we were talking earlier about employees thinking, well, this will replace my job. It doesn't replace their job whatsoever. What I call this is the trainer's toolbox. Let's give trainers all the tools we possibly can so that they can do their jobs more effectively utilizing technology. So once these workers then go into the field and they start interacting with the actual equipment in the actual environment, we've seen already that they're much calmer, and they have that virtual experiential training where they're actually able to do that pre-operational check on that piece of equipment that's standing right in front of them without any further guidance, without any further instruction. So we're proving that you can actually teach these practical skills with learning technology, not just theoretical skills. So we're doing a lot around that. We're working on some research projects as well around this to help prove that out, because there aren't a lot of independent white papers that are dedicated to learning technology in the workplace. And we're always innovating, always moving forward, and doing some real fun stuff in the simulation VR, AR space.
Jason, are you guys seeing a shift? I know we've had this conversation, before. We've actually trialed some of it, but are you seeing a shift also in like the need for just give me somebody trained to like, let's build some proficiency and some skills? Like, are we seeing that shift yet?
Yes. People are still eager though to get, that worker in the field as soon as possible. I think that you're seeing a little bit of a different shift in that thinking right now, because we all know that right now, whether it's in industries like construction, the skilled trades, or the mining industry, there's a big human capital gap there. We literally just don't have enough people entering these industries for the demand of jobs right now. So if you're looking for that highly skilled worker who's highly proficient at these tasks, let's say they have 5 to 10 years worth of experience, tremendously difficult to get right now, because they're working, and if they're in mining and construction here in Ontario specifically, they're making a good living. So these are individuals who are difficult to attract. So if we look back now and companies need to hire because the industries are doing well right now and they need people badly, now people are looking at it a little bit more differently. Okay, we will take that entry-level worker. We're more open to that now, and guess what? We need that entry-level worker to be a little bit more skilled, because we even have a shortage of these experienced trainers in the field who can get these folks to that level of competence. So in that, Eric, what we've actually seen, and again, it goes back to that blend of practical and learning technology. What we've actually been doing a lot of is to augment that entry-level training is on-site training with workers. So now they're in that workplace, they're brand new workers, brand new on pieces of equipment, but now we're in their actual workplace, helping them along. And it's not just training, but it's also mentoring, right? We want the right people to be helping these folks to gain the knowledge and skills and apply those now in the actual workplace, to get them to that level of proficiency. Now, the thing is with proficiency is, nothing helps more than time and experience, right? You have to be there, you have to do the task. And just like anything we do in life, the more you do it, the better you get.
Yep.
Well, that's excellent. And, we've always reserved some spots, some time at the end of our interviews so we can cover new technologies. And I thought that was a great way to introduce new technology, from the sense of learning technologies. So thanks for sharing that with us. Thanks a lot for joining us. I mean, we want to make sure that we are sensitive to the time that we have allocated for ourselves and for the audience. I'm sure we can keep the conversation going on for many hours yet. Thanks for joining us today, Jason. Very valuable insights. Eric, here we are wrapping up episode number 4.
Right on. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, guys. Thank you, Eric.
Right on. For everybody watching, if you're interested in what we're presenting on a monthly basis, go ahead on your YouTube channel and ring that bell, follow us, like us, all the cool stuff that you're doing these days to stay in tune with the content. And we're looking forward to your feedback, and we'll catch you next month with our next episode.